My name is Martin Aguilera. I'm the head of sales here at Mendes Wood, New York. So Mendes Wood was started in 2010 by Pedro Mendes, Matthew Wood, and Felipe de Mob, which offered a different avenue for showing Brazilian artists, mainly because it was situated within the scope of an international audience as opposed to a local audience. We wanted to conceptualize Brazilian art not within the paradigms of, say, Brazilian modernism, which has a habit of repeating itself or being very self-referential. Part of what made us so successful early on and still would attract not only collectors but also curators and writers alike and other artists who come to our program is that we tend to contextualize it within broader trends that are happening internationally. Or broader conversations that are happening internationally. This goes anywhere from issues with technology, nature, question of race has been very important. We're one of the few galleries in Brazil that represents Afro-Brazilian artists as a main part of our gallery program. What's interesting for me and what I've kind of been seeing happen over and over again is how certain artists, a vast majority of our artists, take elements of this European language or this modernist tradition, almost flip it on its head. So there are artists like Adriano Costa who quite literally makes a Carl Andre floor piece and wraps it in saran wrap, so you don't step on it. You have also artists like Daniel Steven Langonet, who, although is not Brazilian, has spent nearly 10 years living in Rio, and whose work does meld, the relationship between modernist tropes like the grid, but looks at it through the angle of nature and the fact that nature actually doesn't have any straight lines. Or artists like Paloma Bosque, who takes these elements of modernist history, but then she uses these indigenous weaving practices from the north of Brazil to create this very poetic woven piece that is in fact rooted in so many traditions. And I would say that really hits the mark with what our program is really about. And when it comes to the context of Afro-Brazilian artists, not only Sonia Gomez, who was actually the first Afro-Brazilian woman to show at the Venice Biennial, who makes these woven sculptures, but also artists like Paulo Nazareth, who has been with us from the very beginning. He's part Tupi-Guarani, part Afro-Brazilian, part Italian. So when his work shows images or pictures of himself, what in reality he's talking about is the history of Brazil, or present-day Brazil.